So what is a human being? Essentially, the core of a human being is the same as the core of original consciousness, since a human is created within original consciousness. So the root of our consciousness is the same as the root of original consciousness, is original consciousness itself. But as I tried to explain before, humans are created in a realm which is separate from original consciousness or God. And so that gives us a way to be different. And actually it puts the opportunity, responsibility, or however you want to look at it, for self-creation on the human. And on actually all things in creation. All of the plants, the animals, even the inanimate objects and the particles and so on. So, does that mean that we're sort of totally on our own? Or does that mean that God or original consciousness is somehow living through us, experiencing everything through us, so that we really have very little say in the matter? I would say it's sort of like a combination in a sense. So I'm going to use this concept of the higher self to try to explain what I mean. And I'm not quite sure if there is any official definition of a higher self. But the way that I see it is that each of us is born with a certain tendency, a certain potential. We have certain gifts. We have a certain nature, which would lead us to move in a certain way. And I think as we move in that direction in our lives, as we manifest more of this, we feel we're going in the somehow right direction, right? Right in the sense that it makes us feel fulfilled, and maybe we feel we're in line with our destiny. So I would say that is sort of like the higher self. But I think that although particles, inanimate objects, I call it inanimate because that's how we think of them, but I don't think they are inanimate, and plants, animals and so on have a lesser degree of creativity in their lives, but a human especially is born with the capacity actually to change that destiny. In other words, even though we have a higher self that we would naturally move towards if there were no blocks, we are totally free to change that too. So if we have a certain gift, that's great. But if we want to develop another gift instead, then that's great too. So it really comes down to our choice. And I think many times we choose to explore alternative paths, most of the time actually, just like original consciousness did. So the whole universe you can think of as the choice of original consciousness to explore alternative paths. So we are very free to do that. And so what picture does this give us of humanity as a whole? It really shows that we're not doing well. Because we don't even accept the right of people to be different. We seem to have a really hard time with that, which is so out of tune with the universe. It's so out of tune with the way we were created and with our real identity. So things like the color of somebody's skin, the gender, these are all just accidents of individuals. When I say accidents, I don't mean accidents. I don't mean a problem, a mistake. I mean like these are just particulars of individuals. So it doesn't make any sense for us to treat people the way that we do because of their alternate choices in life, or because of certain particular characteristics that they have in life. Right? So does it make any sense that our jails are full of black and brown people in America? No. That is completely wrong. That is prejudice. And what we're doing actually is we're putting people who have the same divinity at their very root, we're putting them into jail. And when they're in jail, we are actually not providing any healing for them. We're simply providing punishment. So that is wrong. We're putting God, in a sense, in jail and punishing God. So, yeah, we've done pretty badly, I would say, up to this point. But we are at the point where we are, as always, actually, free to change. But I think we're at a major changing point right now here in 2020. I think we can really make some much, much, much better choices. So the way that I see it, sort of from our perspective, is that a human, all humans, if you get to their deeper philosophical core, are the same. We all want the same things. We all want to be loved. We all want to be valued. We all want to manifest our value. We all want to give love. So that's our philosophical core. But we grow up in families, in communities, in societies, in nations that fill us with prejudices and give us a sort of cultural identity, and also give us a lot of psychological problems. So whereas a 3 or 4 year old has no concept that a kid of a different race is any different from him or herself, by the time they're 14 they realize that's not the way the world sees it. And because usually kids don't sort of really think things through so much, they tend to inherit the thoughts of the people around them. That's the way it was designed, actually. It should be that way, because we should learn through being loved and living in a loving community. But we tend to learn the opposite if we're not in that situation, if we're in a bad situation. And then, so besides this philosophical core, we have this like psychological shell. And that psychological shell is full of things like, I am unworthy, I have no value, I'm a bad person, and you know, just bad thoughts. Children will blame themselves if they're not loved. They won't blame their parents. It's just so deeply ingrained to accept your parents and to feel it's your fault. It changes, obviously, as people grow up. They realize that it's not their fault, but the emotional damage is already done, and it takes years and years of therapy to really start to change on an internal level. So why don't we just accept that all of us have this divine core in our own being, and we would get on a lot better.